there's that famous saying that socialism never works and it never dies. It appeals to something in us that we're all going to be the same. And then when you try to implement it, you say that there's another human instinctual urge that I want to be different and I want to be control of my own destiny, and therefore socialism becomes communism and uses force to kill people.
Hello, ladies. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. We are recording on Wednesday, the 20th of August, and this episode will be up the next day, Thursday, the 21st. Victor Davis Hanson is the Martin and Neely Anderson Senior Fellow at the Hoover Institution, the Wayne and Marsha Buskey Distinguished Fellow in History at Hillsdale College, and he's a man with the website, The Blade of Perseus. You can find it at victorhanson.com. You should be subscribing later in today's episode. I will tell you why. Victor, our last show, which came out Tuesday, was recorded Sunday, and it sort of straddled the big summit that happened on Monday. And that's what we're going to get to today, your views on what happened Monday at the White House. Donald Trump and every leader of Europe sitting in front of him like sitting in front of a teacher. It was a remarkable sight. But we'll get your take on the summit. We'll get your take on the Cincinnati update. Elon Musk wants to forego his plans for a third party. All that and more when we come back from these important messages. We're back with the Victor Davis Hanson Show. Victor?
Yes.
What's your views? How do you assess what happened on Monday at the White House?
Well, everybody was angry. I had colleagues at Hoover and other people that said Donald Trump was played by Putin, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And we've talked about how you have to talk to even the worst monsters. And Putin, monstrous though he be, is not in the same league as Uncle Joe, as FDR called Joseph Stalin, or Mao Zedong, whom Richard Nixon courted and flew all the way over to Beijing to meet. So anyway, they thought they had the narrative that Donald Trump was going to cut a deal with Putin and leave Zelensky's and the Euros out. And then he had an interview later that night with Sean Hannity in which he talked about land swaps, which everybody knows has to take place. Then the unexpected happened. They called the Europeans and they said, get over here. We want to consult you. This is a multi-front Western effort to negotiate with Putin, and we need your input. We can't have all of you at the summit, but maybe I can be a referee and get them in the same room, but we have to be on the same page. So Zelensky flew over and he wore a suit, a sort of suit. It was kind of like a postmodern suit. And then all of these seven, I like the picture of Maloney was on his left side. And I think that was by invitation. I assume that Macron kind of weaseled his way in to be on his right side. But Trump orchestrated it. I mean, it was Emmanuel, it was like he was at a NATO conference, Daddy, and essentially they were there for one reason. They said this thing won't work unless the United States gives support. What they meant by that is they were the ones, let's say, in the 90s who said we have to get rid of Milosevic, we have to use armed force, and the Clinton administration was kind of reluctant. They're a nuclear power. Milosevic and Yugoslavia, the Serbs, have the nuclear power patron, Russia. So we're only going to give air support. And of course, we don't want to get in the ground. And then U.S. air support, I think, was responsible for 85% of the missions against Milosevic. And it worked. So ever since then, the Europeans have thought, we're not going to intervene. They helped a little bit in Afghanistan. Some of them did in Iraq. But you have to have the United States, if not on the ground, at least air support. And the result of all of this Monday talking and diplomacy and haranguing and horse trading was that Trump said, although there won't be ground troops in Ukraine, that he will be willing to back up the European ground support with air power. And of course, the United States has the largest and most effective air force in the world, and that will protect them. So now it's just a question, really it's what you and I have talked about. It's just a question of this invader, Putin, has to have something tangible to give to the military and the oligarchic class. And we don't know what tangible is defined by them to justify 1 million dead, missing, captive, wounded, and killed Russians after almost 3.5 years. So we don't know where that magic DMZ is, but I think the West is going to say, we want to just freeze things where they are now, and you can institutionalize everything to the east of you. Zelensky can't cede territory, so he won't officially recognize Crimea and Donbass and the area to the west that you now occupy. But nobody else is going to complain, so you can say they're part of Russia. And then there'll be horse trading along that DMZ. And I think the Europeans are delighted, because that means, A, the United States will support Ukraine. So if Putin invades Ukraine for a fourth time, he invaded under Bush, he invaded under Obama, he invaded under Biden. I shouldn't say under Bush he invaded Ukraine. He invaded a foreign nation, Ossetia-Georgia, in 2008. But if he should leave his borders for a fourth time, the U.S. Air Force would meet him, and the Europeans would huddle behind air cover. And that's what they wanted. So now they can tell Zelensky, you're not going to be in NATO, but you've got the U.S. Air Force to protect you if Russia tries to invade, and Europe gets to buy natural gas from Russia again, apparently. And then what's the next phase? I have a feeling that the president's plan is to have a sort of détente and try to wean Russia off of China and triangulate with China against Russia and go back to that Henry Kissinger formula.
Victor, the imagery of the summit with the president at his Oval Office desk and all the leaders in front of him, it's kind of like the Pope and the College of Cardinals, that kind of dynamic. We've talked about the Colossus imagery before, but he truly is the leader of the world, the Western civilized world here, maybe not their hero. And it seems very authentic that these gaggle of European leaders genuflect before him. I don't want to make him into a god or anything.
No, I think he's really helped by the last 4 years of the Biden administration. They got what they wanted. They got a waxen effigy, they being the left, and they got a chance in a lifetime to use this old Joe Biden Scranton, I don't know what we would call him, mirage, to push through this open borders, critical legal theory, critical race theory, DEI, get out of Afghanistan, all that stuff. And it was a colossal failure. And Donald Trump comes in and he reminds people, yes, we have a lot of debt. Yes, we're running deficits. Yes, we have tensions. Yes, there's red, blue, black, white, all this stuff going on. But compared to the alternative in Russia, in China, in India, in Europe, we are a powerful and the most powerful nation. We have the biggest military. We have the largest economy. We have the most effective technology. We have the greatest oil and gas production in the world. We produce the most nuclear energy. For some reason, everybody wants to come to our universities, including 300,000 Chinese who are being trained in the most sophisticated technology that bring it back to China and use it against us. But that's another story. So, but nobody exercises that power. And this guy comes in and says, you know what? Everything is negotiable. We don't have to have 300,000 Chinese. You don't have to charge us 50% surcharge as university. We don't have to have DEI. We don't have to have, and we can do it. We can just do what we want. As long as it's legal, constitutional, and it has the backing of the American people. So he's exercising domestic and foreign power that no one has really tried to do because they were all in a state of depression. And they thought, oh my God, we went into Afghanistan, we left, it was just people hanging from the wheels of our planes. It was just so terrible. Oh my gosh, George Floyd, we're such a racist country, we have to call in the UN Commission on Human Rights to see if we're good or not. Oh my gosh, we're not exceptional. Barack Obama said we're only exceptional like Greece. This mutual self-hating despair, kind of the Pete Buttigieg view of America. And he came in and said, that's not right. Just look at the facts and get over it. And I'm going to stage a counter-revolution. And Europe looks over there and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And, you know, there's a ripple effect, Jack. It's not just that Eastern Europe is getting more conservative. Even when they don't have a conservative government, they enact conservative policies in Romania, Poland, Czech Republic, etc. But they're getting a conservative government in the Netherlands, in Italy, and even in Latin America, Bolivia, Argentina. So he has ripples that go beyond the United States. And one of the I'll just finish this, but what was very sad when I looked at those 7 heads of state in Europe, I said to myself, wait a minute, you collectively represent 500 million people. You have over 150 million people more than we do. Your GDP, which used to be equivalent, has gone down to about 2/3 of ours, but it's still the third largest GDP in the world. You were the embryo of the Renaissance, the Enlightenment. You've got these very capable people, and yet here you are, all seven of you, begging this American president to stand in front between you and Putin. And if he's there between you and Putin, then you're going to be brave. And so much for all the ankle biting of, America's this and America's corrupt, America's this. No, it's not that at all. We want you between us and Putin. We can't defend ourselves. We who created the Western military tradition and have this, we could field, if we wanted to, probably 400 divisions. We could have 8,000 or 9,000 late model jet. We're not going to do any of it. We're going to self-destruct. We're going to get down to 1.4 fertility. We're not going to have children. We're going to open our borders to people who hate us from the Middle East. We're going to destroy our nuclear, gas, oil, coal industries and bring in high-priced wind and solar that doesn't work. And we're going to commit collective suicide. But until we need you to help us. So we don't want to end up like that bunch in the White House. That's what I was thinking. Here was one man, and he was representing free enterprise, dynamism, optimism, American strength, and here were these seven others who were very nice people, and I love Europeans, but basically they were there with a tin cup, and they didn't need to be.
Well, we'll give selective love for Giorgia Meloni from Italy above all the others. Victor, she's more like us than the rest.
And there's one other guy there, though. He was wonderful. Alexander Stubb from Finland.
The Finn.
And he just said something that was absolutely right. Everybody was mouthing off, and he just said, I would like to make a mistake. He was a U.S. foreign exchange student from Finland. He said, I could just make a point. Finland has an 800-mile border with Russia. And they invaded us in 1939. General Mannerheim fought him off. And we survived. What the subtext was to Zelensky and the message to the Europeans was talk all you want, but when you're stuck with this huge Russian juggernaut on your border and they invade, they try to absorb the whole country, you fight like Ukraine has done, like we did from November 39 to March 1940. But at some key point, when right before you're going to be overwhelmed and crushed, but before that happens, you have inflicted 500,000 casualties, or 1 million, maybe Finland did, then you cut a deal. And we gave 10% of our territory to Russia, and we promised we would not be in favor of either country. Even when the Germans invaded the Soviet Union and the Finns hated the Soviets, Mannerheim said, we are not going to set one foot into Russian territory. We will help you on the siege of Leningrad, but we'll do it from the Finland side. So what he was telling everybody is, you fought heroically, you've got a great military now, everybody can support you, but the subtext was, you've got to give up some territory to save your country given the monster on your border, and two, you can't just expect to be a pro-Western, chauvinistic, hyper anti-Russian country right on the border of Russia, not given your history. Like our history. You've got to be very careful. And they call that Finlandization, but that's basically what Austria did. That was what Finland did, and to a lesser extent, that's what Switzerland did. And they all survived.
It's called survival, right? Victor, we're going to get to James Comey and his creepy fascination with pop singers. But before we do, one last thing about the summit is what this is such a major been a major week in international affairs and foreign policy, and the focus of the Trump-hating media is Washington, D.C. and securing and National Guard going in there. And it's just crazy that the dynamic of importance and the real news is there, and they're clutching at this scandal, that is trying to create a scandal, trying to create, democracy is dying because the streets of Washington are getting safer. I mean, the mainstream media is so blanked up. It's remarkable. No, it's not.
It's just, they'll never stop. Remember when they tried to storm the White House grounds in 2020? They had torched the St. John Episcopal Church, and Donald Trump was ready to bring out federal troops, and Mark Milley had a photo op, and he said, oh my God, I was taken, because he listened to the left, and then they said he was a fascist, and That was when General Mattis in that period resigned or was fired. Either one, I don't know quite what happened. But there was this idea, you can't bring federal troops. And I think I wrote a column at the time that during the Rodney King riots, was that 92 or 93, I think? 91, I'm sorry. Colin Powell wrote a note. Colin Powell was chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and he wrote a note to George H.W. Bush and said, we got to restore order, and I got 5,000 Marines, and we're ready to go. You just say the word. And Bush did, and they sent the Marine Corps into Los Angeles to stop the killing and rioting. So it happens all the time, but this isn't even that severe. He just said for 30 days we're going to bring enough troops in to just show a law enforcement presence so the police can get back to their regular job. And of course, they said, well, crime is down. And then, of course, the police union said it's only down because we're forced to call, a breaking and entering, shoplifting, or we're forced to call aggravated assault, petty, fighting or something. We don't charge people, and then that goes to lower the crime rate by intention from the politicians. So everybody who lives on the street knows that. So the Democratic Party, I don't understand it because it's 75% Democrat, Washington, and they all, every time you go there, the only people you meet are left wing, and they all tell you, you can go to this place, you can't go to that place, be careful, you can't walk this way, and they're aware of it, that it's a very dangerous place. The other thing is, it's very weird because you have Al Sharpton weighing in about fascism, you got all of the people on MSNBC, but we're essentially talking about a particular crime group, and that is African American males between the ages of 15 and 40, and they make up about 4 or 5% of the population, and yet statistically they commit about half of the murders and maybe a larger percent of assaults, and in rare interracial crime, they're 6 to 10 times more likely to attack a white person than a white person is to attack. And you can talk about the reasons for that. I'm open to discussion. History of racism, slavery, Jim Crow, whatever. Or as Tom Sowell, my colleague, has said, African Americans were one of the most law-abiding communities in America up until the Great Society program. And then he's written several books about why white liberals did things that injured the black communities, confidence, entrepreneurialism, etc. But whatever exegesis you use, that is the problem right there. I just did a little thing on Joy Reid. She just cut a podcast when she said that white people were stupid and all of American music, they can't invent anything. They've never invented anything. I'm thinking Beethoven, Chopin, Mozart. And she said, we invented music in America. Then you had this woman from the New Yorker, Doreen St. Feliz. I think Chris Rufo uncovered a whole corpus where she said basically white people, she hated them. She's writing for the New Yorker magazine. They're dirty, they cause plagues. So what I'm getting at, you've got like this. You've got this crime problem in America that affects mostly the black community as victims of these young black males who are inordinately represented in violent crime. And then you've got an elite up here whose money, both white and black, whose money, whose zip codes insulates them from the problem that they help create. And then when confronted with the problem, as Trump did, by bringing in, then they start calling people racist. And then when that doesn't resonate, they get into Ku Klux Klan territory by they're starting to talk about genetically awful people. I hate white people. They can't think. They cause plagues. These are not isolated people. They're New Yorker writer. Or you have Mondami say he's going after whiter neighborhoods. And so there's this problem, and the country should try to approach it. The black leadership, as people have said for 50 years from the black community itself, we need to stress the two-parent households. We need to redefine masculinity as staying with your wife and raising your children. And the message in rap music, that is not conducive to the black middle class. And nobody will do that. Nobody will do it. And so Donald Trump just ignores it, and he just says that these people are suffering in the inner city, and other people who try to navigate the capital of the world, they're being attacked, and we're not going to put up with it anymore. It's a federal city, and I can do this. And then everybody's on the left is, this is dictatorship. And then privately, does that mean that I can go out to eat tonight? I can actually go to that restaurant. I can stay up 10:30, and even though I only live 6 blocks away in Georgetown, I can actually walk back to my house. I don't have to get an Uber, or I don't have to worry about who the Uber driver is after 11 or 10. So it's a schizophrenic Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. If Trump is for stopping a war, the current Democratic Party is for war. If he's going to close the border and stop illegal immigration, they are for illegal immigration. If he's going to go in and stop crime, they basically don't care and say there is no crime. Whatever he says, they're against. And the other thing is, very quickly, anybody who gets in an argument with Donald Trump on the left loses, because what happens is he knows that they hate him so much that he just has to push one or two buttons. Where's that button? Where's the Trump derangement button? I'll push it. And they'll say, Trump will say, Nicole Wallace will be canceled. She's got terrible ratings. And then she's off to the races at Donald Trump. Don't they understand, if they look at Liz Cheney, her status right now, what happens when you go into a personal vendetta against Trump? Or if you look at Adam Schiff, what he's looking at right now, for 10 years, all he could say is he hates Trump, and now he's facing serious charges that may lead to indictments, that he leaked classified information, that he kind of staged the impeachment, that he lied about his relationship with the whistleblower Saramella and Vindman, and he may or may not have listed one home as a principal residence or 2 homes, so he may have some exposure for tax fraud. And yet he just melted down. And even Barack Obama, he really hated Trump, and now he hated him so much, and he got in so many tiffs with him, that now we've got plenty of evidence that he basically told the CIA, I don't like what I'm seeing. These are 2 objective empirical assessments that Donald Trump did not collude with the Russians. The hour is getting late. We failed to stop him during the election with Russian collusion hoax. Now I want to sabotage his transition and presidency by getting a new assessment from you guys. So you reject what your field men have found, and you concoct the idea that he is a Russian agent, provocateur, asset, so then we can go after him. And that's what Obama's reduced to. He broke Obama, and he broke Obama that now when Obama goes out on the campaign trail, as he did in 2024, it's pathetic. He just gets in his private jet and he flies from his beach home in Hawaii or Martha's Vineyard or Kalorama, and then he tries to look around and see if he sees some black males. Then he goes and tells them that they're suffering from false consciousness and they've got to listen to him. And then he's, I'm done. I'm going to fly back to Michelle, which mansion should we go to? We got 4 of them. Which one? We got to be authentic, and then we'll have a podcast and we can talk about our marital problems. You can, and that's what he's reduced to.
Yeah, he's a performance artist. Hey, yeah. Victor, we're going to get to Comey and what else?
Elon
Musk.
Comey. Yeah, Comey.
We'll do that when we come back from these important messages. The greatest threat to financial freedom in human history is unfolding, and it's happening faster than most Americans realize. Right now, 134 countries representing 98% of global GDP are developing programmable digital currencies. These aren't about innovation, they're about surveillance. Every transaction tracked, every dollar controlled. This isn't progress. It's the systematic destruction of financial privacy. History offers a clear warning. When governments gain total control over money, citizens lose control over their lives. From ancient currency manipulation to modern authoritarian states, the pattern is always the same. Freedom disappears. Look no further than China. Today, 260 million people use a digital yuan that can expire on government command. And the IMF openly admits these systems can dictate what kinds of things people can own. Once cash is gone, so is the last barrier protecting you from government overreach. And that's why American Alternative Assets created a vital new guide, The Digital Dollar Trap, How CBDCs Threaten Your Financial Freedom. It reveals how programmable money is being weaponized against liberty and why physical gold and silver remain your strongest defense. Call 833-2-USA-GOLD or visit VictorLovesGold.com to get your free copy. That's 833-287-2465 or VictorLovesGold.com. Take action now before your freedom is no longer yours to protect. We are back with the Victor Davis Hanson Show. Victor, I make note for people who watch this on YouTube and who had watched earlier. And where I am, I've changed it around my office, and I have over my shoulder here a picture of you, a caricature by the great Roman Glenn.
I like Roman Glenn. Yeah, he's a great artist.
Oh, he is. He's a terrific guy. By the way, on the mortgage stuff, we should remember 15 or so years ago, the mortgage issue. This has been a long time. Politicians have gotten favorable use of mortgages, and it killed Chris Dodd in Connecticut.
Yep.
It killed Kent Conrad in North Dakota. They chose not to run again because of the ramifications of those scandals. So I think your favorite senator there.
He's got a GoFundMe page. He's got a GoFundMe. Yeah, he's trying to raise money. He wouldn't do it unless he knows what he did. It's the same thing with Letitia James. They can say all they want, it's a vendetta, this is revenge, this is racism, this is... And then there's these documents. In the case of Letitia James, she's a New York statewide elected officer, and it requires her to live in New York City, and that she put her principal residence in Virginia for tax breaks. Probably duplicate, one in New York, one in Virginia. And then she misled the state about what the house was for a mortgage deduction. And it's all in writing. She signed it.
You know, some Catholic saints, Padre Pio, were known to bilocate, but I don't think Letitia James had that sacred power of being in two places at once. So, hey, Victor, let's get to James Comey and then Elon Musk. First, Comey, you've seen the video. I mean, it's so creepy and weird how he is relying on Taylor Swift for his mojo, encouragement, how to get through these dark days. And
we just talked about people who were broken by Trump. He was broken by Trump. He thought he was going to be so cute and have a private conversation with the president and then go record it and leak it to the New York Times, probably classified. And then he thought he was so cute by hiring Christopher Steele as a FBI contractor. And then he used that false information, and he had an FBI attorney, Kevin Kleinsmith, who lied under oath or doctored a FISA court document. I could go on, but when all that was exposed, he's looking at a lot of criminal exposure, I think. But he's kind of an Oedipus figure. He has a fatal flaw, and that is that he's arrogant and he's reckless, and his emotions drive him. He was involved way, way back with John Ashbrook. Remember when he went into the hotel room during the George W. Bush, and Ashbrook was getting an appendix, and they had this, he and Patrick Fitzgerald had him signed. I can't remember, but they went in there. And Comey was a lawyer for Lockheed, made a lot of money, as I remember, and then he was in the DOJ. Then he was the FBI director. He was the one that basically wrote that letter that said Hillary was guilty of using a non-secure server for classified information, and he named the number of documents, and then under subpoena she destroyed communication devices. But he said, kind of like Robert Hur with Joe Biden, I don't think we could convict her. And he was acting as if he was the FBI director and the attorney general, because at that time the attorney general for Obama had abdicated, and she wanted no part of it because she knew that it would be too flagrant to let Hillary off. So she was going to let this egocentric narcissist Comey play that prominent role while she met with Bill Clinton, Loretta Lynch, at the Phoenix tarmac. And their private jets sort of kissed each other, nosed up to each other. Then they talked about their grandchildren, supposedly, as they formulated a plan to get Hillary off. So he has a really checkered history, and it went to his head that he was infallible. And he got more and more egocentric as he's interfered in 2 elections, 2016, and then again, you could make the argument that through his tweets and all of the stuff he said, and his former FBI people had the laptop, that was under Christopher Wray. They didn't let people know that it was authentic, and the 51 people then could lie that it was a Russian information project. Everything about him has been destructive. Now, remember, he goes to a beach, and every once in a while he finds little secret messages, right, that 8647, and he had an earlier one too. He finds rock formations,
Right.
So you I go to the beach every year. For 50 years, I've never seen one rock formation message.
The only message I see at the beach is use copper tone.
Yes.
It's
So I think what he does is he goes to the beach and he makes little shell formations, and then he films them and he puts them on, and he doesn't understand what he's doing. He has no common sense. It's frightening that this man was in charge